Welcome back to day 24 of my 31 days of Halloween themed drawing tutorials, all right here on YouTube. Today's video, I'm gonna show you how you can draw this cartoon witch from start to finish. It's all in real time, no time lapse, no cuts, no edits. It's all step by step. So if you wanna follow along and draw with me, keep watching. All right, everyone, so let's draw a witch. Starting out, I'm using a 4000 by 4300 DPI canvas. For my brush, I'm gonna start out sketching. So I'm gonna use my HB pencil, which is part of my pencil pack that's available now. And for the color palette, once again, I've already got this pre-made. So if you wanna download this, follow along with the exact colors that I'm using in today's tutorial, you can head over to my website, bjadell.com, underneath the YouTube reference materials section, which I will link this down in the description below. You can save this as a JPEG to your camera roll. Once it's saved, go up here to your wrench icon, go to add, insert a photo, brings it in as a separate layer, and then you can just long press each of the colors to make the color palette. So let's go ahead and get started. To begin with, I'm just gonna go down to here and just use a black. I don't actually have this in the color palette just because you just can use any color, drop down to the bottom. Like I said, using that HB pencil. And I'm just gonna start out with some basic shapes to get the shape of this witch in here. So I'm just gonna use kind of a lima bean shape here for the witch, for the head. So get that coming around there. Kind of block in here where the nose is gonna be. It's gonna be a big old nose, just really exaggerated here. The nostril kind of back here. Go ahead and draw in some ovals here for the eyes. And you'll see, just like the other videos here in my series, I'm just starting out with some really basic shapes, not going crazy with details right away. I'm just kind of blocking in where everything goes. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw the hat coming down around here and having it come back and around here. Just like this, do the top of the brim of the hat here, coming up and back down to the back. Kind of have another piece here. We'll have this kind of be fabric here with a different color. Have the rest of the hat come up here and back and around. We'll kind of pull it down and maybe have it kind of come back here and a bunch of zany little folds here that kind of add to the overall just cartoony factor of the whole design. All right, so now that we've got that in there, I think I'm gonna move this all just a little bit here to the right, because I do wanna have her with a broom, so we need to make room for the broom. I think the two most important parts of the witch are the hat and the broom. So we'll have some hair then coming down here out of the hat. Have it just kind of crazy here in the back. Around like this. Have the ear down here. We'll have the ear super low. It shouldn't go that low, but I think it'd be funny just to have it set that low. Kind of, once again, kind of builds on that comedic effect of the cartoon that we're going for. Kind of bring this around, cheek around in front of that eye there. Start to get the eyes in there a little bit. Some eyebrows, and then we'll have some hair then coming down here to kind of finish off that front part there of the head. Want this one to kind of be lined up with that angle of the hat here, just so it looks like it's all coming up to that meeting point up there. So I think that looks good. Let's go ahead and get a mouth in here. I don't know if I want to do super big. Actually, let's do kind of smaller here. Have a top lip coming down into the mouth here. Have some big teeth coming out there, kind of buck tooth. Kind of have a bottom lip here coming out like that. Do a chin down here, maybe a double chin there. That looks pretty good. Do a wart here with maybe a little hair coming out of there. Pull the back here, kind of almost like a hunchback type of look. Have one arm here. and coming up the front of her there, and we'll have the broom over here. Kind of drawing the top of the broom. Some ties here where it all comes together. It comes back out here. Draw a couple lines down here for the handle. And then we'll wrap the fingers around this. Into the hand here. Into the wrist. Kind of have the sleeve coming out here. That. And that's going to be our basic sketch. I think that's got the main things that we're going for here, and then we can kind of add in some more details as we go along. So now that I've got that, it's time to start inking. So to begin inking, what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to our layers. I'm going to hit the N, which is the blend mode on the layer, and I'm just going to drag down the opacity of this so it's still visible, but it's just not as dark. And then I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer on top. This is going to be our inking layer. We're going to ink on top of that sketch layer. And I'm going to switch my brush now. I'm going to go to my cartooning brush pack, and I'm going to use standard Inker Streamline to start out. And I'm going to decide, okay, where's the light source coming from to begin with? I think with this, I'm going to have the light source coming in here from the top left-hand corner. This is going to help us determine what our line weights are going to be, where they're placed. So anything closer to the light source is going to be thinner lines. Anything further away from the light source is going to be thicker, heavier lines. Just kind of helps us drive home where that light's coming from. So now that we've got that decided, we can go ahead and start inking. So I'm going to pull in here just a little bit closer. And I think I'm going to start here with the nose. Once again, this top layer here, I'm going to bring this up and around and kind of back down. Just starting out, deciding what my line weight's going to be. And I think that looks pretty good for my line weight. I'm going to taper this up just a tad bit here and pull that into the nostril or the back of the nose here, like so. And then let's go ahead and add in that wart over here, the little hair coming out. I think that's the other important part of a witch. You've got to have that in there to have that witchy factor. I'll start pulling these lines around here. And I think with this, I'm going to switch over to my standard inker. Streamline's turned off for this, just so I have a little bit more natural control over my brush strokes. Do a tapered line here coming around for that cheek coming into the eye. And then I think I'm going to switch back now to the streamline just to get these eyeballs in here. So with this, you're going to see I'm going to go in with a lighter line here and here as it comes around to this top, have it go thicker. Kind of signifies where the eyelashes are without actually drawing in the eyelashes. So if we start thin and go thick up towards the top and then back to thin around here, that's the look we're going for. Same thing here, thin to thick to thin. You want to kind of go thinner a little bit further away here. So thin to thick to thin. And with that, it's basically just pressing harder as you go around, letting up as you come back around. With these brushes, they've got a lot of pressure sensitivity built into them, so you can get some crazy differences in the line weight just by how hard you press. And it really takes some time getting used to it. So if you download these brushes, if you're using them, and they don't work exactly like you see in the videos, all the settings are the same, guaranteed. It's the exact same brush I'm using. It's just technique. So there we go. We'll get this. Let's see, what do we want to start with next? Pull this out a little bit. I think I'll continue down here to the lips. I'll pull this line back and around here. This top lip in here. Get that one in there like that. I'm going to up my lines here just a little bit now, thickness-wise, coming in here to the bottom. Pull this around. And I think I have that tooth coming in kind of on top of that bottom lip. Tooth around, and then this one. Have some extra lines in here just for some details. Pull this one back here, kind of tapered as it connects, and then just kind of fill this in here. There we go. So we've got the mouth done. Let's go ahead now and I'm gonna work on getting the face around here. So we'll connect this line here for the cheek, and then we'll pull this one back and around. So get this one in here. A little line there for where the mouth comes in, a little dimple on top of there. So here I'm going to come in heavier down at the bottom, really kind of the whole way, because it is kind of falling underneath here. So we kind of want that to look a little bit heavier as we bring it around. We'll just bring that just like that, kind of getting it as close to my sketch as I can, because I like the line that I've got in there already. So I think that looks pretty good there. I'm going to switch back to my standard anchor now, streamline turned off, to get these lines in here. Once again, just a little bit easier time getting those nice tapers and making it look a little bit more organic. So there we go. I'm gonna erase this and have the hair come down over top of that. So from here, let's go ahead and work on the hat so we know where everything's gonna go at from the hair standpoint. So I'm gonna turn my streamline back on here by selecting that brush, and we'll just start to pull this hat around. I'm gonna start down here and come up heavier here in the back. I've got this lighter because this is going to be overlapped here with this other line, so it's not actually an outline. Bring up another line here and connect it in the back. I think with this, I'm going to go back down to my layers. I'm going to make a new layer here so that when I connect this, I don't have to worry about going over the lines that I've already done. I can come back in here and erase if there's any overlap. See here, it kind of overlaps here in the back a little bit, so I can erase that without erasing this bottom line that I've already done. You see that makes it so much easier to do that. Now we can kind of switch back between these two. So I've got that top line there. I can now go back down to my bottom inking layer, and I can ink up here, and I don't have to worry about going over. So I can go over here and I can go back in and erase, and it's super easy to do that. And you don't have to worry about trying just to match all the lines up as you go back in with that eraser. Drawing some extra lines here just kind of for that fabric creasing across there. That adds in just a little bit more to the design. Pull up these lines here and around the back. Once again, kind of heavier back here, because this is going to be the furthest one away from the light source. And then as these come together, then I'm going to taper them at the ends just to show that overlap there. Pull this one up and around. And kind of lighter there towards the front. So there we go. We got the hat done. Now we can kind of start working on the hair. So once again, I'm going to merge these together so that way everything's all in one. But I'm going to make another layer here. So once again, I can come in here with the hair and not have to worry about going over those lines. For this, I'm going to switch back just to my regular standard inker to get some nicer tapers here on the end as these come up and down. Heavier here on the bottom and lighter then as they come back up. Connect that up a little bit better so when I go and drop colors, I don't have any gaps in there. There's that. Once again, pulling these up and around. This one's going to be a fairly big one swooping back here. Same thing here, swoop. Go ahead and get my ear in here now. Then we're going to erase some of the lines here. I'm going to pull this taper back just a little bit. It's moving in a little bit too close to that back where I want to be at. So now I can go ahead and go back to my brush and pull these down. This one's going to be a little bit thicker there coming down. And I always say, if you can zoom in, zoom in. It's going to help your lines. The closer you get, the more accurate you're going to be able to get with your lines. And if they look good that close up, they're going to look fantastic further away. So zoom in as much as possible. You'll see here, I'm going to do some more of those lines there to kind of bring in that feel of the strands of hair kind of in here. It breaks up that inside part a little bit too. I can erase these overlaps here. Then going back down to my layer 2, I can erase the overlaps from the hat, from the eyes, and from the hat over here. So there we go. We've got that in there. Let's go ahead and add just a few more lines of hair coming out from the hat here. You'll see stuff like this. I don't even have sketched in there. This is just stuff I add after the fact. So I really urge you not to get too caught up in the whole sketch process. You can start to add stuff like this in afterwards. I think some people just really try to make their sketches look too perfect. And then when they come into ink, they take forever to ink because they're trying to match up every single line that they did to begin with. And it just takes forever doing it that way. And I find this way, just going in really loose and just kind of using your lines or your sketch as just a suggestion where things go, I think that works better. So try it out and see. I'm gonna get in here a little bit closer and add some eyebrows in here. I'm just gonna have these be solid lines. I'm not gonna color these in. So we'll just pull up just a thick line there for the eyebrow there, erasing the overlap. And the same thing here, just having a thicker line there coming around for that eyebrow. It's a little too close right there to go in and like draw them in as something that you color, so I think that's a better way to go. I'm gonna come in here, add a little bit more details around the eyes here. So just doing some thinner lines. Come around there to make those just a little more interesting. Kind of like some little bags there, around there. I think those look good. Let's go ahead and bring in the back here. Once again, I'm still on this top layer here with the hair, but now I want to combine these and I want to go ahead and make a new layer again. This is going to allow us to come back in over top of that hair again and erase those overlapping lines. This is going to be a thicker line back here, so I'm just trying to adjust my line weight to get kind of that perfect size, and I think that's pretty good. Don't want it super thick, but I don't want it super thin either. That one there. The arm coming up here, that in there, get the front of the body coming down here. It's gonna be a little bit thinner of a line, but not too thin. I think that's actually pretty good right there. So now that I've got that, let's go ahead and I'm gonna go to my streamline brush now. I'm gonna start inking in over here. I think I'm gonna start with the Broom here. We'll start to bring those lines up and around. I'll drop this down just a little bit because it's going to be closer to the light source, so not as thick as some of the other ones. But then again too, we still want some thickness there. It's really just a game of back and forth, seeing what looks right. Kind of the tips here coming out and kind of overlapping. Up and around, overlap there. Some overlaps here as well. And these lines kind of show that it's all bunched together, that it's coming down here into what we're going to do next is basically these kind of strings, pulling that all together and keeping it in a bundle. You just alternate the sizes of these coming around, just like that. And then bringing these out. Once again here, just kind of adding in more of the details that I didn't add in with the sketch. So those look kind of broken up there, and it's got the different lines coming down and around. So there's our broom. Let's go ahead and draw the handle in here now. So I'm just going to start here with a line, pull this down till it locks. Get that as straight as possible, and same thing here with the back line for the handle. That locked in, and there's our handle. So we've got that. Let's go ahead now and combine these layers again. So now we're left once again with just one sketch or one inking layer. And then I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer to do the hand here. So we can once again come in here and erase the overlaps on the hand. Fingers in here. Down and around to the wrist. I'll taper that one just a little bit more at the wrist. Pull it into the sleeve there. Pull the sleeve around here. Kind of the opening there, back up into there. We got our arm coming out. Let's go ahead now and go into our main lines layer. I'm going to erase the overlaps here of the broom so that the hand looks like it's wrapping around there. So we've got that. Bring that one down a little bit more. Erased a little bit too much. Get another kind of line here, crease coming in from that finger. And then go ahead and add some fingernails around here too. Some really quick fingernails there. And then erase this last overlap here on the hand. And there we go. So we've got that done. Let's turn off our sketch layer now. And this is what we're left with, basically just our lines. So now we're ready to go in and do the color flats on here. So to do this, once again, I'm going to merge these together. So now everything is all on one layer. I'm going to go ahead, make a new layer, drag it down underneath of my main lines layer. And I'm going to set my lines to reference. This is going to allow us to drag and drop all the colors down here onto our layer 3. So let's go up to our color palette. The first color here, the green, that's going to be the color of the witch herself. So get all these areas colored in here. Got those done. Let's go ahead then, go to our purple. This is going to be for the hat and for the gown that she's wearing. And then the darker purple, we're going to go for the inside of the hat, and then also that inside of the sleeve down here. I'm going to zoom in closer there so I can get that really good. So there's that. Let's go ahead and go back up to our colors now. The yellow, we'll use that for that part there, and then also for the inside of the broom bristles. Going back up to our colors again. We've got white next, so let's go ahead and coming up to our layers, we're going to turn off the background here so we can see a little bit easier what we're doing. We're going to drop this into the eyes, and then also come in here, those highlights that we did in here, we need to color those in. So that's going to be our white section. Turn our background back on now, and running out of battery. I'm going to go to blue. This is going to be the insides of the eyes. Got this reddish color for the lips. Get those real nice and bright and popping. This next color, this kind of yellowish color, we'll use that for the teeth, and then for the fingernails down here. And then we've got the brown here. We'll use this for the handle of the broom, and then for that little twine that wraps around that area. There we go. And then finally, we've got the gray, which is going to be the hair. So we'll drag and drop that, and that did that all in one, so that was pretty easy. So there we go. We've got the color flats done. Pretty simple. Next up, we're going to start to add the shadows. Like I said before, we got the light source coming in from here, so the shadows are going to go back on this right-hand side. So I'm going to go back up to my color palette, this kind of midnight blue down here. That's what we're going to use for shadows. Coming back up to my layers, I'm going to make a new layer here. That's going to be my shadow layer. I'm going to switch over to just my standard anchor brush now and get this kind of big. Because when I do the shadows, I like to come in here and just block in just a massive section for the shadows. I like to have a huge area filled in with a lot of colors selected. And you'll see right now, all my colors are going outside here on the white. The reason that is because we need to set this to clipping mask. So this shows you what it's like if you don't have clipping mask set. So if we go up here and hit clipping mask, what it's going to do is going to attach all the color on this layer to whatever's on this layer of our colors. So you're going to see as soon as I hit this, all that white out there is going to disappear, the overlap on the white. So you can see just how much time this saves. If I would try to stay in the lines out there, it would take forever, and using clipping mask saves you a ton of time. That's why I love to use it. The other benefit of using clipping mask, you can also do kind of the same thing with alpha lock. Alpha lock, though, is going to do the same thing, locking it to that color, but it's going to be on the exact same layer as whatever layer you choose for that alpha lock. So say with this, if we went in here and chose alpha lock instead of clipping mask, this would all be on top of our color flats layer, meaning we wouldn't be able to adjust this at all. It'd actually be coloring on top. Everything that we did for the color flats would be gone. It would just turn into this blue color. Since we've got this on a separate layer, what it's going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to adjust the opacity of this separately, keeping that color flats layer just intact down there below, so we can actually see through the shadow layer down to that color flats layer. That's the benefits of using clipping mask rather than alpha lock. Allows you to non-destructively add stuff like this. Just get a little bit more in here and we will be good to go. Idea here is I'm just trying to cover a decent amount of the variety of colors in here, just so I can see what this shadow is going to look like as it's on different colors. So it might be too dark for one color and too light for another one, and I'll have to adjust it so it shows up right on both colors, or all 4 or 5 or however many that we end up with. So that's the idea here. And I think that's pretty good. I'm going to hit back here a little bit more. So we've got that filled in. And that's a pretty big section. So we can go ahead now and change this up and see what it looks like. So coming up here to our layers, we're gonna hit the N for blend mode, and we're gonna drop down the opacity of this, and you'll see it's starting to lighten up. And I think here probably, thinking about 30% looks pretty good. So that's what we're gonna leave our shadow layer as, is 30%. Then I'm gonna come in here and clean this up. So when I go in with that really just thick brush and throw in a lot of shadows around here, I'm not too worried about having all the lines perfect and having everything line up. I'll just come back in here and clean everything up and fine tune it. It's kind of like when I start out the sketch layer. It's just more a suggestion of where everything goes. It kind of helps me visualize where the shadow should be, and then also helps me adjust that opacity too. So we get these in here. I'm going to pull this around a little bit better so it kind of flows with the lines of the circle I've got in there. It's pretty good there. Maybe even pull down a shadow there from the hair. You'll see here Some of these are coming up a little bit too far here, so I'll adjust those back. On Streamline Ink or Streamline Inker Eraser now. And you'll see when I go in here and I start to use the eraser, I'm always switching back and forth in between the Streamline and the regular version of the Inker. And whenever I do use an eraser, even if I'm not using that, when I come in to erase stuff, I usually like to keep the same eraser as my brush so that everything kind of matches up and keeps the same feel. You don't really want to come in with say the Streamline Inker or just this heavy Inker and then with your eraser come in with an airbrush. It just doesn't make sense. It's not going to keep those same lines that you're going for, and everything's going to look really weird if you take that approach. Let's get some more shadows back in here. Just kind of using that line that I've got in there as a guide where I want those shadows to come in. Kind of brings in that detail even more there. And then I don't really like that taper here. I think I'm just going to make this just one big batch of color right there rather than having that taper come up. We've got that. Let's see what else. I've got a glare here on my screen, so I'm trying to come off to the side so I can see it a little bit better. Get some more shadows here on the bottoms here, and then around the top of the hair here where that hat's going to kind of give off that shadow. A few more shadows here underneath those lines. Okay, now that I've got everything kind of shadowed in there, I'm going to move over then to this side and get where the shadows would be here. Get these around here. Shadow here underneath, come down. Same thing here, back in here. Just kind of down as these kind of fall. And pull some in around here too. Make these kind of messy in there. And it looks like I was going to do more lines back in here, but I didn't, so I'm just going to erase those. Just have that tapered up like that. So let's see, get a couple more here underneath the hair. Get back on the right layer here. This will be kind of heavier shadowed in here. And I think I want this one to kind of curve a little bit more with the way that that cheek comes down. So you'll see here, I'm just matching up the shadows to some of those lines that I've already got in here. Just wanted to kind of follow that same feel of where those go. That looks pretty good. So now I'm going to go in and actually remove some of those shadows. I've talked about before, I don't like things to be 100% shadowed in on the sides because it just becomes too much shadow and the viewer can't really tell that, oh yeah, okay, this is shadowed back here because the only part that's non-shadowed is right here and it's too far away from here. So I'll just start to pull in and erase some of the shadows here. Of course, from a light source standpoint, some of these aren't really going to make sense, but it, I think, helps the design. It's something I use quite a bit in my work. And it just helps the, like I said, the viewer kind of tell where these shadows are just by getting rid of too many shadows. And you've got that change in the value there across, so that's kind of what we're going for. All these down here, just like we did with the other section. We've got varying kind of lines there. I'm also going to go ahead and here, and I've talked about this before as well. If you use the selection tool here and freehand and go in here and just kind of do some crazy lines like this that are tapered in, you can get some really cool hair effects here. So with that locked in, we can go to eraser now and just erase this section. And you'll see that gives a really nice hair effect to that little shine there. That is very comic-esque. I want the inside of this ear colored in too. I'm going to remove the shadow from the top, but then I'm going to select this darker color of the ear. I'm going to go back into my color flats and I'm going to color this in. The reason why it's showing up is because we're going in on the color flats and it's darkening in then on top where we've got that shadow layer. So that's a quick way that you can go in and add some extra areas of shadow if you need to. We wanted that to kind of look inset and we couldn't do it because it was already all shadowed in. So that's another quick little tip and trick that you can use. Let's see what else. I think that's good. I'm going to do one more here where I'm going to switch back to my color, the shadow. One more here where the broom is going to be kind of giving off a shadow there around. And then one more here underneath the nose as it comes up and around. One here underneath there. I'm bringing that back down into here where it tapers into the chins. I think I might even remove the one from the chin here just on top so it's got kind of a little glow to it. All right, so there we go. I think that all looks pretty good. Do a couple of removals back here on the hat. That looks a little too dark and there's a little bit too much as far as shadows there. Bring in some tapered parts here coming around too. Just little stuff like that adds in a little bit extra. So there we go. Got the shadows done. Now it's time for the highlights. So to do this, we're going to go ahead, go up to our layers, make a new layer, and we're going to set this to clipping mask as well. This is going to clip just like the shadows. And then we're going to go back up to the color palette using this kind of bright white yellow color. We're going to go back in and start to add highlights, streamline inker selected. And I'm just going to come in here towards the front. Like I said, light source coming in from that top left-hand corner. We're just going to start to hit that side of everything here. Once again, some tapered lines around here towards the front. You can kind of see that glow that it's already starting to give off. It's really kind of bringing in the feel of where that light source is coming from and really making these highlights pop. I don't think we'll even adjust the opacity too much on this because I kind of like how bright that is. We'll play with it a little bit, but I think that's going to stay pretty close because I like that glow that's giving off. Up around the nose here. Once again with this, you'll see I'm just trying to follow that same curve. I want this highlight to just have that same flow as the outline. I know a lot of people kind of struggle with how the highlights should look, where they should be, and when you've got the inking layer done, a lot of it's going to follow along with the work that you already put in. So just kind of using that to your advantage. Like here, you'll see I'm just kind of following that same line around. That highlight is just following the same work that I've already done on that line layer. So use the work that you already put in as kind of the suggestion of where everything goes. You just want to, like I said, keep the flow of the lines the same. You wouldn't want to have this like all jittery and boxy. I missed a part there I'm going to go back into. You want it to have that same overall flow. So keep that in mind as you're going through and adding either highlights or shadows. It works the same for both. Keep on going on here. Probably do just like an oval highlight here on the nose. Maybe a smaller one here. Looks pretty good there. One here around the lip. A couple here on the teeth. Those aren't going to show up super crazy well because of the colors, but around the top here. One front of this broom just a tad bit, maybe having a line come down like this and then back up. A couple there. Edges here. You see, I'm trying to keep it on this right hand side of that line as it comes down. That tapered up a little bit more there. Hit some along here. Not too many because that's going to be shadowed in quite a bit from where the broom is. Same thing here, just trying to get on this left hand side of that line. Same tapers coming up there. You can kind of pull these down even on here, the shadowed side. You can pull some more lighter tapers there. That's good. Pulling a couple down here towards the front. Not going to have too much here because that the hat's going to kind of shadow this off, but just a couple of light ones there. And we'll do it around top of the sleeve here. Once again, just kind of matching up the way that flows with that line back there. And maybe hit a couple of just wonkier lined ones here. There, and then maybe another just kind of zippy line like that. I don't even know what you would call that necessarily. All right, anything else that we need to do? I'm gonna take one last look at this and see. I am thinking that's pretty good. Do maybe another highlight right here, just kind of coming down. One right here on that lip. All right, and that is it. I'm gonna go ahead and make a new layer up here. I'm gonna just come down to black and using my standard inker. Gonna get a lot smaller than that. I'm just gonna sign this. And we are done with our witch. So that is day 24 of my 31 days of Halloween themed drawing tutorials. Hopefully you guys liked today's tutorial. If you did, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos in this series. And as I'm saying this, let's go back in here one more time and just adjust this opacity of that one and see if we want to drop it a little bit. I'm thinking, like I said, not too much, maybe 75 looks pretty good. So there we go. But yeah, subscribe, hit the bell. Still got a week left in this, more videos to come. If you guys take part in these challenges, I definitely want to see what you come up with too. So if you do any of the tutorials, posting them online, Instagram or Twitter, tag me at BJ Adele. Want to check them out. Also, if you are part of Facebook, definitely hop on over there and join the group that I've got called Keep Creating, a group for artists by artists. I'll link that in the description below, a place where you can share your art, give feedback, get feedback, put these tutorials up. You can put any art at all that you make up there. That's what it's for. I want you guys to be a part of it. So that's it. I can be found online, bjdell.com, as well as my podcast, Make Money with Your Art, available wherever you listen to podcasts at. That's all for today. I'll be back tomorrow with another new video. Will you join me? Will you be back then? I hope so. So until next time, keep creating.